Guys, we'll move on to the next topic. So I hope you guys have understood the Needham shader protocol. So next type of protocol that we'll be discussing is about Kerberos. So first, let me just tell you where this Kerberos protocol will come into a picture. Okay, consider a scenario wherein which in an organization, say suppose we have multiple users and multiple servers. So in that case, one each user, each I mean to say each individual, if the organization has got multiple servers, then he has to remember all if say suppose if he wants to access like all the servers, so then he has to remember the passwords that he would wish to give for each and every individual servers there. And this task seems to be very tedious. So and the usual tendency of any individual is to give one single password to all for the purpose of accessing all the servers. Okay, so to make this task of logging in into multiple servers by multiple users in an organization, this Kerberos protocol came into picture. Okay, so what is this Kerberos protocol? How exactly it works? So before getting into those details, first let me highlight on one of the concept here, that is password. Okay, so here our concern or the scenario that we are considering is allowing multiple users to access multiple servers in an organization. So the restriction what or the requirement is something like this: we want a single login concept. Okay, so a single sign on concept. What is a single sign on concept is a person, like authorized person, and if that person is supposed to access any of the servers in the organization, for that purpose, for that person, the facility should be provided something like he'll just log in to one of the server using his password, and that login should allow him to access any of the servers. Okay, and the password like the login password whatever he'll be giving, so this login password should not be stored in any of the servers. Instead, it has to just get vanished, or the way in which the password is communicated should not be in its actual format. It should be in the form of hash function. I mean to say hash function should be operated on this password, and its hash value should be stored in any of the servers. Okay, and the password should reside on a machine for only few milliseconds after being entered by the user. Thereafter, all vestiges of the password should be destroyed. Okay, so the protocol which will take care of all these requirements was named by Kerberos. So this Kerberos is a product of MIT. Okay, so directly here we'll not be looking into version 1, version 2, version 3. We'll directly have or I'll be directly explaining you the version 5 of Kerberos protocol, and that is what is present in your what syllabus as well. Okay, so the main concern here is only with respect to the passwords. Okay, so these are some of the requirements of the users or in the organization. So to continue with the concept of Kerberos, it is more of like the Needham shader protocol. Okay, so the concept of key distribution center, it has been the same, but here it has been splitted. In Kerberos it has been splitted into two entities, that is authentication server and ticket granting server. Okay, so here the function of key distribution center, the function that was performed by key distribution center in Needham protocol. Now in Kerberos, the same function has been splitted into two: authentication server and ticket granting server. Okay, so this what the key distribution center was authenticating the user, recording the login time, and it was also deciding the login, the maximum duration of the session and the session key. Okay, so now the person who has logged on, the logged on user, for the logged on user, in this case I'm speaking about in the case of Kerberos, he'll create a ticket for the user and the requested server. Okay, so each ticket would contain the encrypted session key and related information such as lifetime of the session key. The session key would be used for mutual authentication between the user and the requested server, and for possible encryptions of all subsequent communication between the two. Okay, so here the authentication server will first authenticate the user. Okay, the user and the server with whom he wants to communicate with. Okay, and he'll generate a session key the session key for communicating with the ticket granting server. So later on, once after the authentication of the user is successful, the user will receive a ticket, a ticket or the session key for communicating with the ticket granting server. So later on, the user has to contact the ticket granting server, authenticating himself by the session key provided by the authentication server. So looking into that session key, so the ticket granting server will grant a ticket, ticket granting ticket, TGT in short. Okay, ticket granting ticket will be provided by the ticket granting server. So using that TGT, so again the TGT in turn will contain the session key and other information such as lifetime of the session key. Okay, so that session key later on will be used for subsequent communication between the client and the server. This what exactly happens when it comes to the Kerberos protocol. Okay, so I'll brief it up. So we'll have the user first. The user will send the request to the authentication server, so saying that it has to communicate with some respective server. Okay, so authentication server, what it does, so authentication server will look into whether the user is a valid one and whether he is a authorized person. He'll look into all those details, and then he'll be generating a ticket, and that ticket, I mean to say the session key, whenever I say ticket is nothing but it contains a session key and other information such as the lifetime of the session key. Okay, and other informations as well. Okay, so that ticket is the ticket issued by the authentication server will be used for communicating with ticket granting server. So the ticket granting server in turn will generate a session key, and that session key will be communicated to the user, and he'll be later on using that ticket for communicating or for his subsequent communication with the server. Okay, so how exactly it happens, we'll see this figure here. It depicts how the exchange of information or the protocol exactly works. Okay, so here C is the user, A is, it is a short form of authentication server, TGS is the ticket granting server, and S is the server with whom the client wants to communicate with. So client in short it is C, server in short it is S. Okay, so this key distribution center, the function of key distribution center in Kerberos, it has been divided into two functions, that is authentication server and ticket granting server. So what is the first step done here is the client will request the ticket granting ticket. Okay, so TGT, it will request for TGT. So next C will receive the TGT, that is ticket granting ticket. Next C will request for service granting ticket. Okay, so that for the ticket granting server. So next it will receive the service granting ticket and the session key. So this session key is nothing but which is used for the subsequent communication between the client and the server. And C authenticates itself to the server by the ticket that has been provided by the TGS, and a service granting ticket provided by the TGS. And S authenticates itself. Later on, even S server will authenticate itself to C. So what exactly happens here, you can just see here. So we have 3 steps here. So 3 steps are nothing but these 3 like this first and second message is termed as step 1. Third and fourth message, it has been termed as step 2, and fifth and sixth step, those two messages that comes under step 3. So message 1, it is being sent by the client to the authentication server, and it contains the identity of the client and the ticket. Like initially, now it wants to communicate with what? So first the client has to communicate with the next conversation is with ticket granting server. So it is mentioning the identity of ticket granting server, and the time here, time is the login, it is specifying its login time and the session duration. So how long, say you can just you might have now like when we are experiencing where we are supposed to attend online meetings. Okay, say if you have planned for Zoom meeting, so there I have to mention for how long I'll be conducting the meeting. Say for 45 minutes, 1 hour, 1 hour 30 minutes. So I have to mention the duration of time that I'll be conducting the meeting online. So that is the time duration, the session. So that is one of the example. So I'll be deliberately explicitly mentioning here when the client will be mentioning the session duration, and this R1 is nothing but the the challenge or the random number, the nouns that has been generated by the client, and this is the purpose of generating is to avoid the replay attack. Next, the authentication server will on receiving this request, he'll respond, or he'll send his response with the identity of C and the ticket granting ticket. So TGT is nothing but this T. So and he'll also send the encrypted message which contains TGS, and this is the session key. Okay, so this session key is used for communicating with TGS. Okay, and also whatever the time he has specified, that time, and whatever the challenge that he had sent, the same thing. Okay, so now what this ticket contains, the same thing, whatever here it has been mentioned, the same thing will again be present in this ticket granting ticket, TGT. Okay, so on receiving this, the client will send the request to the ticket granting server by specifying the server with whom it wants to he wants to communicate with. Again, the time here, the session duration. So authenticator C. So authenticator C, now it contains that it wants to communicate with its identity and this TS1. So TS1 is the time duration. Okay, it is speaking about the time duration, the session key time duration. Okay, and the ticket granting ticket, whatever it has received, and again the challenge. So on receiving this, the ticket granting server will generate a new session key. So now you can just see KCS. Okay, so this session key should here on be used for communicating with the server. Okay, so on receiving this, now the client will send the request for the server by sending this ticket granting ticket for the server and the authenticator. So within this, it will specify the TS2. Okay, so the time in which it has initiated the request. Okay, so on receiving that, the time, it will just add increment that, and it will send the response using this session key provided by the ticket granting server. So this is how so this ts1, this ts2 is the time when the request is generated, and this time is the session time. So how long the session will be conducted, so that time will be specified in times, and this ts1 and ts2 is the instant, the time instant when the request is generated. Okay, so this is how the Kerberos actually works. Okay, so next topic to discuss is biometric. Let me just explain that in the next video. Thank you guys.